Welcome, everyone. Hi, and welcome today. It is Monday, and we are here on Fempreneur True Confessions. And we have an amazing guest here today. Really quick, unfortunately, Angelique, she is traveling. She's having a wonderful time with family. So we are sending her all kinds of safe love while she's on the road and doing all of that. And she will be back in a couple of weeks. Next week is a holiday, so we will have a recording out, but we will not be going live next week. So we won't see you, but we'll see you when we return in June. And for those of you that don't know me or who Angelique is, I'm Laura. Angelique and I both own virtual assistant and project management agencies. We both pretty much service the same people, the same businesses. We love women in business and small businesses and love to help them thrive. And we started this podcast because technically her and I are direct competition. And we didn't like the idea of that. I went to her and needed all kinds of support, and I just needed someone who wasn't going to screw me over because I'd already experienced that and didn't want to continue on that path. So, but we got to trust someone somewhere along the way. And we became business besties and friends. And we really, truly just help each other in each other's business and realize that though, yes, we're competition, we're not. We don't believe in competition. There's enough for everyone. We're all building our own thing. And there's just a path and a journey for all. And that journey and path is different for all of our guests who have been here, and it's been so amazing because giving that platform to hear the journey, not the bright, shiny object, and how we're always all put together. Because I think we've learned in the last 2 years, I'm definitely not. I can't even hide that from our audience anymore. But in not being all put together, it's just the realization that this is what business owners world look like. We have families and we have love and care that happens in our business and our life and family all intermingle, especially as in business owners. So we're here to tell those stories and those journeys of amazing women. And we just every week they self schedule. We don't know who's coming in every week. We don't know when they're going to be there. We don't tell them a certain time. There's no topics. We pick topics after they schedule. So we have a great guest, and she's just coming right in line with what we've been talking about for the last few weeks. And I am just loving it. So I'm going to introduce Veronica Rodgers. And she is a two-time Amazon best-selling author. She's a speaker and the passionate founder of Chameleon Wealth Solutions LLC. Carnelian. I knew I said it wrong. That's why I had to go back. Carnelian Wealth Solutions LLC. With over 20 years of expertise in financial services, Veronica specializes in empowering women in the sandwich generation to take control of their financial futures. Veronica's mission is deeply personal, rooted in her own experience of navigating the financial and emotional challenges following her father's passing. This journey inspired her to dedicate her life to helping others avoid similar pitfalls and create legacies that reflect their values and aspirations. As a Lisa Nichols certified transformational trainer, Veronica brings her unique ability to inspire, guide, and activate change in her audience. She combines her financial expertise with transformational coaching techniques to deliver insights that resonate on both a practical and emotional level. And we'd love to welcome you, Veronica. So glad to have you here today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that introduction, Laura. I appreciate it. I'm so excited.
Yes, absolutely. We were talking a little bit before when you came in. You know, we always have these conversations in the green room, and we were going over an outline. And just so anybody knows, I'm always having technical issues. I'm having technical issues today. And with Angelique not here, if we fall off, we apologize. We would definitely get it all figured out later. But just know for our live audience as well. Um, but we were talking in the green room and going over kind of the outline of what we do and what we're go over. And there was a couple things highlighted, one of which we always love knowing, when there was ever a time that you helped or supported or mentored someone who might be considered your direct competition, but where that just didn't matter. Like you just, you stepped in and you may have helped in some way. And we love hearing and starting off with those stories. So I would love to hear if you have a story in regards to that.
Absolutely. I necessarily didn't mentor or coach anyone. I was the one receiving the coaching. And so, really and truly, being a type A person who has always been in corporate America, and you see that competition, just like running around amongst the offices, it was ingrained in me to basically not reach out for help.
Mhm.
Although that's my original like thought process, I want to raise my hand, it just over time wasn't something that I necessarily felt comfortable with until I realized that something needed to change. I was at a point in my career trying to decide if I was going to stay corporate or become an independent advisor, and I had been secretly watching someone from behind the scenes for a time, and another wonderful lady, I'll never forget, she encouraged me, said, why not just reach out to her, why not see what she's doing, learn from her, and just see if she'd be willing to help you.
Mm-hmm.
And so, with that being said, I did that, very afraid,
Yeah.
thinking that, especially in the finance industry, there's not a lot of women. Our presence is still not well known. And you feel like you're always competing, because of that. But she was so gracious. She was so very much willing to allow me to learn and talk with her about her experience and guide me from there. And that professional relationship grew to the point where she invited me to speak on her stage. She was hosting a like an event for women to talk about certain things within the industry. And at first, I thought, why would I do that? Because again, that feeling of competition just was there for me. I'm like, why would I necessarily do that? But I could see the community that she was building, where it was, she has this community of women advisors, and she was putting together a larger vision that I could not yet see, but I knew I wanted to be a part of. So I finally said, you know what, let me just trust my instincts, because we all as women have that intuition. It's like, I just have to go for it. And took and said yes to the invitation to speak on that platform, discussing the things that I've been through in regards to my father's passing and why it's so important for this generation to really get involved with their finances along with their parents or whomever has raised them, to make sure that everybody is on one accord. And from there, it really has been a blessing. I have been able to continue to stay in her world, stay, and we support one another, to the extent where she owns a firm that I now, with my firm, her firm oversees my firm, so that way we are doing everything correctly
Yeah.
with the SEC. But it's so great. Like, she put something together. She had a larger vision. She said, Veronica, I think you would be a great fit. Let's start working together in that capacity. It's grown where there are other women advisors. And even there, we all do things in collaboration. We may have different focuses and niches, but we're still, the target market, for lack of better words. I shouldn't say, like, sometimes people are like, oh, women are not target markets. But in finance, in all seriousness, we're still working to kind of decrease the gap that we've
Yeah.
had for so long within this field and industry.
Mhm.
And we, as women advisors, work together and collaborate. throw ideas off of one another. And from there, I mean, really and truly, Lord, it's been a blessing that I never thought would come my way, but I'm so excited to pass it along.
Absolutely. I love that because it opened doors you wouldn't imagine. And it didn't take away from her. It actually helped build. So it was a win-win. Like everybody wins. It's that whole point of, you know, in corporate I did retention. So negotiation was part of it. And there's that old saying where if you leave the negotiation table happy, it wasn't, it didn't go right. Like everybody should be a little bit disappointed.
Right.
And that's when it went fairly, right? That's when it probably went fairly in that way. So it's so funny because I think that I see coaches all the time, coaches, like we're building up coaches. And that's a prime example. And we're like, well, how are you a coach that coaches coaches? Well, because they're also business owners, they're also life is happening. We need coaching for different things, and it doesn't take away. It builds up. Everybody's strengths come in, and then once they do, then you build on your strength, and that provides to somebody else. So I love that you guys are even able to see past that. And in the
Yeah.
financial world, that's much different because especially in the financial world, it's
Oh my
highly
goodness.
competitive. Yeah.
Highly competitive. I mean, talk about dealing with masculine energy.
Mhm.
Even that space of trying to navigate, okay, let me pull it back because it doesn't always have to be this way, like how we
Mhm.
were essentially raised up in the field. It doesn't have to be that way all the time. And so being
Right.
around this in this community and within the group and just hearing, bouncing off ideas and talking about the experiences we've had. Now that we're in our zone of genius, it allows
Mhm.
us to be able to shine even more. And so
Yeah.
collaboration is key.
Absolutely. I know in corporate I was seen as a nuisance or a real PETA, not but passionate, and aggressive. Most people thought I was intimidating and aggressive. And it's funny because I can see where intimidating might come in, and aggressive is only if, like, I'm a Taurus, you wave a big red flag in front of me, aggression might happen. But why with anyone? But it was very interesting to hear how people really thought of me because that's not how I saw
Mhm.
myself. But when you're in that world and you're having to deal with so many things and you're being told, oh, you're too passionate or you feel too much or this isn't professional or it's not like this or when you're told that enough, and I went into corporate not ever really being told that. I didn't have that upbringing where it was, you're a woman, you should be quiet or you should act this way. I said, no, I was raised with lesbians. We were all very loud women who never shut up and never sat down. So it was kind of one of those things. So because of that, it was weird going into corporate and starting to see all that fighting in the inner and how women would act towards each other and different things would happen. And I was like, what is going on? It was such a foreign world. And I
Yeah.
was there long enough to end up soaking in a whole lot more than I probably ever would have liked, as far as what you start to believe. So I started getting quiet. I was known as the PETA. I was, aggressive in that. And it probably cost me the rest of my corporate career because I left quickly, not ever really wanting to be in corporate. But when I decided it was time 12 years later, it was time. 2 weeks is all I gave. I was like, I'm done. Been here 12 years.
Mhm.
And it was a split second decision, all based on emotion and probably not the best way. But we all come into that with such a crazy feeling of what, I was being changed and I didn't like that. And I was aware. So I've grown up aware. Um, and so when people aren't aware and they're not seeing that and they've been in it for so long, it's just interesting to see how deep they get into what that's like. And how many things we've had to break with our VAs. Like in our agency, everyone has a seat at the table. Your VA comes with knowledge, project managers come with knowledge, we come with knowledge, and we're all working for the same outcome. And that's hard even for people in business now to kind of think about that. They're like, well, no, let me just give a task and check it off and do this. And I'm like, we have a thought that this might be better. And some people are open to that and others aren't. And I'm like, I know this is a crazy idea that your team might be smarter than you. My team is smarter than me. They have to be, because they're answering questions I don't want to learn. Like, I don't want to learn everything. So it's those kinds of things when we talk about it. And I've just seen different views of how women are, and in corporate it was just so toxic, and I was just like, why are we acting this way? And then seeing it in business and stuff like that, seeing why, and that patriarchy that kind of has always been, it's gross to me. So yeah, you're like, I don't want to get, I don't want to be stuck in that world. But you got to maneuver it. So you become those people in your corporate that are, people love you or hate you. There is no in between. There's very little gray area. There is, yes, they're a great person. They see your worth. You're amazing. You're wonderful. All that. And everybody else is like, oh, why her and this and that. And there's the that happens in the infighting. So it's very interesting.
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. The ability to become a chameleon dissipates over time the longer you stay in. At least that was my experience. Yeah. I took on all of that energy to the point after 20 years, that's just how I thought I should be and needed to be accepted that way. But on the flip side, it held me back as well, in corporate, because that point, I mean, especially being in a male dominated industry, I completely rubbed some feathers off them, trying to get my point across. So whether it was men or whether it was the other handful of ladies that were in the office, they didn't necessarily appreciate, want to comprehend what I was bringing to the table, why I was bringing it to the table. No one asked questions, right? And so then you come home to those that you love, and they have to kind of manage what you're bringing home, not knowing what's happening in the day-to-day world. And I didn't necessarily do a great job of leaving work at the door, So
it's so hard.
It's hard.
Well, and that's, people talk about that work-life balance. Most of our audience know that we're not keen on that. We don't really believe in it. I don't like the idea of work-life balance.
Balance does not exist.
No, and I'm a business owner. So my son was older when I started the business, and it was, COVID, and I was grateful. I didn't have a young one at home to deal with. But I was still dealing with a kid, a teenager that was still growing and figuring things out. And I was absent through some of that because I was also focused on business. And then when we started looking, I was like, oh, I need to balance this. And I'm like, there's no balance to it. When I need to take away from my business to give to my family, that's not a bad thing. Like my business goes quiet for a second. My family needs to deal. We're dealing. And I learned that balance. What my idea of balance is that, yes, I can get quiet over here and put in the extra that needs to be over here. And there's always that flow of back and forth. I don't think I've ever been at a point where they're completely satisfied, the business is going great, and I'm like, oh, like, there's balance. Like, how long does that last? I got maybe 5 seconds before I get a phone call or a text that something is needed or whatever, so we have little maybe moments of 10 seconds here, 30 seconds there, but I don't believe in the work-life balance. I'm like, our dogs join us on our meetings. I'm surprised she hasn't tried to at this point. People have heard my son. He's even been on video. Like, my husband, not so much. He's good at staying, anchored to the side and not being seen. But it's it's just knowing that, like, I hear people all the time apologize on meetings, like, "Oh, I'm sorry about the cat. I'm sorry about the dog. I'm sorry about the kid. I'm sorry about this." Now, if it's all the time, that's all that I ever have. If I'm on meetings with you every week and there's nothing that can ever get done, I will then eventually say, "Hey, can we at one point get a closed door?" Because I got to concentrate. But I have zero belief that the world gets quiet when we get on meetings with clients or potential clients or just people that we're mentoring or working with in the VAs and project managers. Like, I have zero need for it to be quiet and professional. I'm not going to get dressed up. I'm not going to do my hair and makeup. It's not going to happen. How I come to the table is how my family, I've come to the table all day. Like, it's, and it was very relieving when I was able to do that and just be like,
Yeah.
I've never fit in anywhere. And I, I don't know why I was trying to in corporate. I was trying to be something, you get told you're supposed to be a certain way. And I was
Yeah.
like, I guess I was trying that, but that wasn't working clearly because I wasn't fitting in, even in trying to fit in. Like, I was like, oh, much more comfortable not fitting in. So I think coming through that, we just don't have a balance. And I'm not the professional one. So we've just changed it where it's like, again, what resonates with us comes our way and what doesn't, doesn't. I don't, you know, um, I've had people come
Ex-
to meetings where they're like, we expect you to be super professional and you've got to talk this way and act this way. And I'm like, you've met me, right? Like, I doubt I'm the one for you. You might really want to work with me, and I understand that. But one, I'm not the one that does the work. But two, I, yeah, I can't even tell you that I'm going to pretend to be that. I'm going to ruin your first meeting. Like, because I can't even pretend anymore, So there's moments of realization as we go through this.
and
And
we, sorry, go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say, and your comment about you can't be a carnelian when you're in that, and that's your whole thing is that's that individuality. You can't be that when you're trying to
You can't.
live.
You absolutely, that line is always tested, especially as a business owner, because it doesn't matter what stage of life we're in, whether or not we are in a relationship or we have kids or pets that we love, or we're taking care of our parents, or we're always responsible for something and someone. That's just, for the most part, most women. I, I, I just, I don't know a woman who isn't responsible for something, even siblings in some capacity. Like, you're keeping up with someone else outside of the work, and the box that corporate put us in to meet certain
Mhm.
expectations. It's completely, to the point where it still can be with business owners as they step into their own world and put their CEO hat on. Because I'll share a quick story. Recently, I went through that where I was holding some meetings in preparation for my latest book that just came out a couple months ago, and it's a anthology. And one of the ladies thought she was doing a service to me by letting me know, like, hey, you don't have to keep telling us that you're tired, because or don't apologize that you're tired. You're trying to get your thought together. As had been dealing with, and I'm still dealing with, my 4-year-old child. She was 3 at that time, even in the bed with us. I mean, you guys, I'm sorry, I fell victim. I know everybody says don't do it, don't do it, don't do it.
Sucker, right?
And I'm like, I asked her. I said, "Well, what does that give off to you?" And essentially, the thought was that it just shows that I may be a little bit weaker, and I'm leading this charge, and everyone wants to make certain that they're underneath my leadership, and I am able to guide them and lead them. And I took that to heart, and I was a little offended at first. But then I thought to myself, like, okay, wait a minute. My tribe is going to understand and appreciate that I am as real as I possibly can be sometimes. There's a shit, and I'm being vulnerable on this podcast about it. um, but when I'm tired, I'm tired. And I know I'm not as efficient, I'm not as productive as I can be when I've had enough sleep. So I may just give you a warning, like, hey, I'm going through this. I couldn't do that in corporate. So now I'm in my space, my zone, my with working within my tribe and community, and I'm hoping that everyone can understand and appreciate that it's okay if you know you're not showing up 100% your best self for whatever's going on. You don't have to share all the details, but understand with me, you're safe.
Yeah.
And so I realized that, okay, not everyone may be there yet, and that's fine. And hopefully, if that person ever hears this podcast, she won't be offended, but she'll realize, okay, well, that's how Veronica was thinking. And it's okay to have a difference of style. It's okay to have a difference of approach, but understand that we all go through something, and it's okay to be able to tell your tribe what you're going through in the midst of it. So that way you can receive support. You can get that extra type of, backing and because at the end of the day, two is better than one. So if I know we're going to get better results when everyone's on the same page versus I'm coming to a table and you're like, is she okay? What's happening? You're questioning, but you're not speaking up. You see something going on. No, like, hey, are you okay? What's up? I work and want people that come to me. And I feel like that's why I have the clients that I have, because they realize at the end of the day, hey, we don't have to be embarrassed about where we are with our finances. Because this sister right here has messed up more than once. Okay? And I mean, it doesn't matter that I've been in the industry. I've had my own trials, tribulations, shed my own tears, been on the floor like, oh my gosh. Right. Dealing with shame and embarrassment and all the things, then to finally be able to pick myself up and realize I'm human. I'm human. And as long as I have breath in my body, I have the ability to learn lessons and apply them and be able to add value to someone else, so that way they can learn to avoid whatever pitfalls that they might be, on the bridge of tripping over and so forth. So life, I mean, really and truly, this didn't start coming to me until I turned 40. I'm 43 now. I didn't realize that life really truly was to essentially teach you how to learn, and through mistakes, through pitfalls, and to be able to learn how to gain the confidence in order to then just pass it along and help other people, because that's what life is ultimately about, helping others. That's why I said two is better than one. So
yeah,
I could go on and on.
My husband and I were just talking this weekend about, I've spent years telling my son, one of the biggest things that you're going to learn is to laugh at yourself. And it's going to be difficult till you do. Like, I love you to death, and there's no need for seriousness. He's not a super serious kid, but if you can't laugh at yourself. So I'm the parent that every time something was funny, it may not be funny in any other household, was funny in ours. We're a household of ADHD people. We laugh at random shit. Um, and I would laugh at him and be like, that's just terrible. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Um, Learning to laugh at yourself, even like, or dealing with punishment, peer pressure, embarrassing kids, like you don't embarrass your kids in public. I was one that used peer pressure. Do you want your friends to see what was going to happen? Like, there's a choice there. I'm not going to take you to a bathroom. I'm not going to be quiet because I'm never quiet. So, what do you want to do here? Do you want to test my do you want to go further with this, or do you want to think twice about who your parent is? Because I'm not that parent, I'm this parent. And through the years, he's learned now, like, oh, she will embarrass me, and she will laugh at me, and she will laugh when things are funny, and she will do this. And it's eased ways. People are like, for a long time, it's like, well, that's a confidence thing, and it's this and that. And I'm like, the truth of the matter is that I would rather him see that the world is going to laugh at you and you can be okay with it and you can join in, and that just, it goes away. Or you can be so tense about it for so long that it affects you. And that's really then what affects your confidence and your ability to move forward or to be seen or to deal with the situation and all the shame or whatever you've done. Um, I said, but the second you laugh at yourself, you totally diffuse everything. Because if somebody was getting ready to be mean in that moment and they see that you don't give a shit, well, what are they going to do now? I said, you've completely.
Right. You took all the ammunition away.
And so he's slowly starting to learn that. But I have lived my life in that moment. And that's why I say I don't really fit in, and I really don't give a shit if I fit in anywhere, because we've laughed at ourselves forever. It was a way of life. It can be tough now, or it can be tough later. You're going to have to learn the lesson. You're going to have to go through it regardless. How do you want to go through it? Do you want it tense and full of tears and anger and yelling and screaming? Or do you want to laugh, see the side of it, the other version of it, and see where this might be humorous in a couple of months or whatever, and really go through it that way? Because there's two different ways. Like, we can make it tense, or we can make it a little less tense. And I loved him being able to, finally learn and see that. And we, still ongoing, but those are lessons, where I heard for a long time, like, oh, that's terrible. And I'm like, okay, well, you do you, I'll do me, and we'll figure out in the end. No child is going to go through their childhood untraumatized. So it's which trauma you're going to give them. Like, there is just zero way for any parent to say, I've never traumatized my child. I call bullshit on that in every freaking way. I do. You cannot not traumatize your child. Now, how we teach them to deal with that trauma is the whole other side of that. I'm going to hold your hand through it. Sorry, I traumatized you, because you're going to get loud, or you're going to do this, or you're going to scare him. Something's going to happen. Like, so it's
right.
Yeah. Right. Live. And it's the same in work. It's the same with everything as you start to live life and go through it. Like you said, you just turned 43. I just turned 50 last week. And I've been looking forward to 50. I'm like, I'm in my Chiron return. It's coming up here in a week or so. Like, things are hitting. And I was excited for 50 because 43 was the most life-shattering time, or between 40 and 50 was, my 40s were just life-shattering. Everything in my world there is zero recognition of what my world looked like before to now. Like, there's nothing there. It's totally different. So when we talk about like the things that change and that come up, and how we learn and things like that, you're changing. If you're not changing, you're not growing, kind of thing. You have to make the change, but the change is very different in what that looks like, because I think we see change of, oh, well, I'm a little nicer today, or I've learned to be kinder in my older age. For me, that may or may not be true, but or whatever you've learned, like I'm this person now and everything else. And I'm like, no, that transformation that comes through in the 40s, the knowledge and the information and the way things change, we fight that so hard. And if we haven't learned to not
Yeah.
fight it, because my generation, Gen Xers, we fight everything. So I told him, I'm like, you can be, like as I'm teaching lessons to the kids and to the people around and stuff, it's that when we talk about things, it can be hard now or it can be hard later, but either way it goes, those lessons are going to come through, and you're going to be forced to be who you are. Like, no matter how much you fight it, who you truly are and your authenticity is still going to come out. So the whole world was never meant to love
Yes.
you, and the whole world was never meant to hate you. They're going to figure it out for themselves
Right.
and be grateful that they weeded themselves out. Like you don't even want to be bothered over here with what happens. And so I think those are things even in business where it's like, we're having that journey and we're like, well, you want to get customers, you want to be loved, you want to have all the answers and have all the things and do all the stuff. And me, I have fallen apart more in the last 5 years than I was ever willing to show before. Like now I'm like, whatever, totally vulnerable. I'm transparent. It's who I am. Shit is not put together. And that kind of stuff. So being out there and,
Oh my gosh.
getting rid of the perfectionism, which I know you've also talked about. And yeah.
Exactly. I mean, you leaving, staying in corporate America, like I said, put you in this box of perfectionism. You mold yourself into what you believe will be expected from you,
Mm-hmm.
and that's when something clicks. Everybody's time looks different, or it may not happen, but just part of a point in your life where you realize, like, okay, I've been operating one way that's not my true authentic self.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you're ready to ask yourself, okay, how do I stop doubting? Can I really show up as me?
Mm-hmm.
And will I be willing to embrace me first? Because that's all that really
Mm-hmm.
matters. Of course, don't get me wrong, I don't anticipate most people saying, okay, the real me is someone who's going to be a hard ass and be mean to people and so forth. We're not getting anywhere in life in that. But with all of our quirks, with all of our differences, if you're willing to embrace that and show up in your true self,
Yeah.
then that's when you are like, okay, it's time to stop the doubt. Who's going to be for me will be for me. Who's going to accept me will accept me.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're also able to say, I know I'm going to be able to help and add value to that person in that company, or how, whatever the space that it is that you're looking to basically fill.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you're able to show up and realize, like, okay, now it's time to just live life, that the life that I've been given to the fullest, to the umpteenth degree, wherever that is. Like, this show is for fempreneurs, but sometimes I'm sure there are women who may feel like questioning, did they make the right decision? Should they go back to being corporate? That's fine
Yeah.
too, because all, like you just shared, this being a business owner, it makes you very vulnerable.
You want a journey? Go
Like,
become a business owner. If you need spiritual journey in your life, become a business owner.
yes, and yes. Um, and it's so funny. I was talking to one of my closest friends the other day who's also a business owner, and I was like, man, you know, I wish they had the entrepreneurship classes when I was in
Mm-hmm.
school. It's so amazing and exciting to see what is now offered and what is
Mm-hmm.
valued amongst society, and what to know what's at the reach for the younger generation. I mean,
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. But anywho, it helps them realize. It helps them realize, like, okay, at least that does give them the space to be like, okay, I have a little bit more of an understanding and idea on how to walk my path. But challenges will still arise. Life is still going to teach you hard lessons. It all, that's when it matters the most to say, okay, I'm able to stand 10 toes down in my value, in my message, and know my true
Mhm.
worth of what I'm bringing to the table with whatever that looks
Yeah,
like. So
that is great.
it's just important.
Well, we talked. My son graduated what 3 years ago. 2 years ago, three. Anyway, don't hold me to that. 2 or 3 years ago. In 3 years, he'll be 21. So, and we talked about, he was halfway through his senior year, and people are talking about college and what are you going to do and all this stuff, and they do it beforehand, but he really wasn't interested, and we struggled with him in school. I knew it was going to be a struggle. So he was just like, I don't want to go to college, and I was like, okay. He's like, that's that easy. And I was like, shit, you have zero idea of what you want to do. You've already struggled. You're really sick of school. And the last thing I want to see you do is have a whole bunch of freaking debt over something you don't give two shits about. I was in criminal justice when I
Right.
was his age. I spent 13 years working with teenagers in the juvenile facilities and court system, and then went to corporate. Like, I'm like, I have no way to talk. Like, no, don't go to school yet. If you're not spending that kind of money anyway, if you have no idea what you want to do. And it was very interesting because
Yeah.
once he was relieved of that and he knows he could just, you got to work, like go get a job. And it's just a job. Like you're not committing to that for the rest of your life or anything else. Just go find a job. I don't care what it is, and
Mm-hmm.
we'll go from there. And he slowly is starting to come into ideas of what he might want to do, and and probably trade school instead of college and things like that. But it gave him that time when we were not that push. I'm definitely not that one. Like I have zero need to throw an 18-year-old into college when they barely know their name still at this point, and they don't have a clue. I didn't have a clue at 18, and working with the teenagers is what I knew because of my background and my history as a teenager and what I went through. I had a history
Mm-hmm.
there. I had a worth, a value within that system because of my own story. So I knew that was a good place for me.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't stick, and I was burned out by my 30s, like teenagers are rough, and my own child was going to be a teenager. And I didn't like teenagers. So the only way to be able to like my own kid was to get away from teenagers for a while. So, and it was his saving grace when I did that. But I think we put a lot of pressure on the finance. They don't teach financials, but we put pressure on what do you want to do? What are you going to be? Who are you going to be? I am I'm going to be absolutely nobody in another 10 years when if I decide to make changes or do this, I'm starting at the bottom and starting back up for my own self. And it's,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. We're always somebody. We get to what we think we're somebody, right?
Mm.
We start over to where we're nobody, like quote unquote, for those that aren't watching the video. But it really is that, we can't make decisions based on our future when I know for a fact that every certain amount of years our brains open up to more knowledge that we weren't going to have in our 20s. How are we going to know that in our 20s?
Right.
So I'm not pushing any of my kids, of family, and well, education. Yes, education is important, but I'm completely self-taught. And I did master level work without a master's degree when I worked with the teenagers. And it was a
Mm-hmm.
pain. It was hard work. It was a lot of work. I started from the bottom and I worked up. And it was a lot of work. But that was the path I chose. I didn't mind that lot of work. School work, a lot of work was not me. I didn't want that. I didn't like it. And he's like the same way. So I think when we're always considering like, this is what kids are doing. they're meant to change their mind over and over and over again. If you've only had one career for 60 years, because that's the way it was before, I'm sorry. Because there's very little you've learned in that time, Like, I feel for you. I wouldn't want that for myself or
Right.
my kid. So, yeah.
Exactly. And we are fortunate to be in the age that we're in now where it is accepted to change careers. It is accepted to take more risks, face different challenges. Just, you
Mhm.
know, I encourage everybody who's there to make sure you have your support team behind you, because you're going to experience hurdles, you're going to experience ups and downs, but don't
Mhm.
let the woulda, coulda, shoulda ever be at the end of your
Yeah.
life. Like I just,
Mhm.
you, if anybody's going to take that chance and roll the dice on you, it's you. So
Mhm.
how do you find a way to overcome that, the self-doubt, and step into your power and your purpose, is just by really and truly centering, however you get there, centering and finding your true self. The fact that
Yeah.
the younger generation is able to do that faster now, I think, is a beautiful blessing.
Mhm.
Of course, people may take that for granted because that's just how society is now. However, it's just something that we all should be able to do, regardless of what stage, what age
Mhm.
we are in life. Know that you are meant for more than just doing certain things that don't bring you joy. If it doesn't bring you joy, find something that does. I mean, really and
Mhm.
truly, Laura, I bless my father's heart. He taught me what he knew. But
Mhm.
growing up, I'll never forget, I left college and I took a job right out of school after finishing my internship, and I stayed there longer than I should have because he ingrained in me that I needed to stay in order to earn the money. Basically, I
Mhm.
remember telling him, like, "Hey dad, I don't like this. I really don't feel like it's for me." And his question to me was, "You like the money, don't you?" And that told a story, like, I have to sacrifice my happiness for money. And
Mhm.
that was at 22. And
Oh,
it
it's a
stuck.
terrible story. Yeah. Yeah.
It
Oh,
stuck
it's an
with
awful
me.
story. Yeah. Because it does. It stinks.
I was like, okay, because especially he had achieved a lot of success. So that told me, and I know he had different demands than I did at that time, but that told me I had to sacrifice my happiness. And that's to make him proud. That's what I did up
Mhm.
until he passed. Oh my goodness, he passed. I mean, I did switch roles, but I wasn't necessarily doing something that I loved. I didn't have the faith, the belief that I could do
Yeah.
more, even though I knew it down in the pit of my belly. I knew I was meant for more, so I just know there's so many people out here who still feel that way, who still feel like I've got to do certain things because that's what my environment has told me to do. But the more we continue to talk about it, the more that the world realizes that that's not the case, the more we will truly be successful and just help make the world a brighter place, because we need it.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's crazy because I mean, you talk about, your dad and stuff, and it didn't look like some people might be angry about that. It didn't look like you're angry. And I think that's part of it is that we get into that blame mode. Oh, they taught me horrible things. Well, I'm 50, which means I'm still believing that shit. So it's on me. Like, that's my problem if I'm still believing something or whatever. Um, but I also think I've talked with people before where it's like, I'm so grateful for all the shit the good, the bad, the ugly. The ugly things that happened really, really young. I'm actually grateful for, and that seems so odd to us people, but I was like, when I was young, two, I'm able to deal with it now, but it shaped my ability to deal with things in my world. Had I not had the experiences I had, my world would have looked much different at 18 when I'm trying to figure out what it is I want to do. I knew that I was going to do that and I could go into that field, and I knew something about it. Um, but I think we forget that all those experiences and all those things, and we kind of get stuck on the 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 money mindset around money, or around trauma, or around things we went through, and working through it and how we're supposed to feel. Like, you're not angry with your dad. He didn't ruin your world, right? Where a lot of people come out as that seems like anger. So I loved your approach, and I think that was my long way of getting to that, was just saying, like, even the way you talk about it, like, he taught me this and it was a good thing. It wasn't necessarily a good thing, but you're okay with it. You've worked through it, and again, it doesn't always have to be about anger. It doesn't have to be about blame. It has to be more like, oh yeah, I was taught a lot of really bad shit. And I have not taught my son always the greatest things. I feel zero guilt. I have zero regret. He'll figure it out. I'm a firm believer of that, and I'm here to help him with it. But it's those kinds of things where I think I love your understanding and your vision to that, of saying, yes, I was taught it, but it was funny, and this is what I went through, and you may not have done that. And we could always go to the other side of that and be negative with it. Like, I really don't like, I hate that he did that, or this and that. Hate's such a strong word, but you know what I mean. Where you go to the other side and you're like, yeah, he taught me that, but you're the one that's got to learn past it and realize that that may not be what.
Exactly. Because ultimately it's like, okay, life really and truly, and I'm saying this out loud, so I continue to put this here in my noggin, that life does not happen to us, it happens for us. And if you can see through the schmuck of it all that you face, you will realize ultimately it really truly is. It can be a blessing the way you look at it. It sucks during what you're going through. I promise you, I understand. Like I said, I alluded to the fact I have been on this floor. I have cried so many tears. I have felt shame to the point where the weight, it just, made me feel like I couldn't breathe at times. But when I was ready to pick myself up, when I was ready to say, okay, because let's do this work to clean that off, wipe it away, and turn it for good, it really and truly then becomes a magical experience when you use it the right way.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love that. Thank you.
You're
And I just looked at the time. I was like, oh shit, we were talking. This is a great conversation. So we went over. I hope you didn't have a hard stop at the hour, but really quick, we are gonna wrap this up a little bit. But Veronica has a book out, right? No, it is out now officially. Okay.
It is out now. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The book is Illuminate Your Legacy. And she would love for you to go check out her book. We will have a link to that, as well as her website, all her social media, and all the places to go see her, like her, love her, get to know her. Sorry. And we ask of all of our people, our audience, yep, there went my ADHD kicked in. From our audience members, we are asking if you want to get on our membership list, our wait list. We are going to be kicking that off here shortly. And I know we've talked about it, but being on the wait list helps us to see. And we're also reaching out to our wait list to, you guys kind of get to be the ones, the shape what this, community will look like for you on top of the podcast. So get on that list, hang out with us. We're in all the places, and definitely go check out Veronica. Go get her book. We always support our authors, and it's so exciting to see all of the amazing authors coming out. So I'm big on that. You know, Angelique's huge on books, so we'll be sure to get ours. And please join us. If you want to talk about sponsorships or being on the podcast, definitely reach out to us. We are here for it. And we'll just keep going as long as women have amazing stories. So thank you so much, Veronica, for being with us today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. It's been so much fun.
Absolutely. And to the rest of you all, thank you for joining us. And we will, oh, you know what? I have a quick chat. Let me check it before I go because I don't want to leave anyone out. Oh, Lisa Brownlee Johnson, psychological safety is so important. Thank you. So let me pull that up really quick so they see it. Thank you for joining our show. We're always excited when we have our guests here and when questions are coming in for them. So, but outside of that, everybody enjoy your week. Stay dry. We're going to get out of the tornadoes. So enjoy and stay safe, everyone. See you next